Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the CannaList Conversation. I am your host, Patrick Doherty. We are here with Jennifer Whetzel today, and she is the founder of Women-in-Cannabis.Study. Jennifer, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
So what is the study? And give us a little bit of a background.
Sure thing. So it was back in 2019 when I was planning to sponsor the National Women of Cannabis Conference in Vegas as Lady Jane branding. And I was looking for an activation for the women at this conference to do, something for them to do. And I wanted to do a survey. I'm a bit of a data nerd. I like to do market research. And when I was trying to think of a topic for that survey, I was looking at the data that existed on women in cannabis, and there wasn't a lot. It wasn't recent, it wasn't comprehensive. And I'd been hearing so many stories from friends and seeing them on social media of harassment and just lack of opportunity. And I thought that all of that would make a good topic for a study. And so I launched it in November of 2019 and left the quantitative study portion of the project open until about March. And we had over 1,600 women respond. There's about 820 made it all the way through. There was about 100 questions. It was quite lengthy. And the study really looks at women's journeys of coming into the cannabis industry, working in cannabis, who they are, what they were doing before, why they entered the cannabis industry, the sacrifices they make, the obstacles and barriers they face, the issues with balance and self-care and self-esteem. We looked into consumption, cannabis consumption. And then we finished it off with definitions of success. Do you consider yourself successful? And then what is that definition? So we have that quantitative portion of the study. We also did 23 qualitative interviews with women chosen from the quantitative portion. There were over 500 women who wanted to participate in that portion, but we didn't have the budget for that. We also did video interviews with many of the speakers who were at that conference, and filmmaker Wendy Borman did those videos with me. So we have, so the report was just released on March 3rd, and it's 280 plus pages of data and stories and videos and profiles of women working in cannabis today. It's quite lengthy and dense, but also full of pictures and big numbers. So it's kind of an easy read.
We like pictures and big numbers. It makes it a little easier to swallow. Yeah. And when you say it was released, where is this available?
You can see the study for free on the website. It's WomenInCannabis.Study. And all you need to do is just sign up and you can look at it for free. There are also options to pay for a download, and soon we'll have print versions. I made one, and it's so exciting to see my work in print. So we'll be
big pictures and numbers. We love that.
Yeah. So we're working on that print edition, and once we have that available, we'll let people know.
A lot of times we talk to people, and especially in Southern California, and they lament on the bro, concept of cannabis.
Yes.
Have you run into that, and how does that impact? I take that as a yes. Tell us about the bro culture and how that impacts women entering into the market.
It's interesting because I might describe it as there's two kinds of bro cultures. There's the stoner bro culture, and then there's the money bro culture that is coming.
Yeah, I think it's the money bro culture that we're getting the pushback on, right?
That seems to be where a lot of the trouble is. And when there are numerous stories.
Because stoners never bother anybody.
No, they're generally pretty calm and nice. However, I will say that that doesn't mean that things don't happen, and that it's not easy for women to work with in the industry, whether it's bro stoner culture or bro money culture. It still means that women need to work harder. They need to be better educated. They need to, bring men to meetings with them so that they'll be taken seriously. There's a lot of the data points in the study point to sexism and misogyny and name calling and lack of opportunity, lack of pay, Promotions not going to those who maybe deserve it. So what I'll say is that the data does reflect that there are significant issues for women in this industry. Only 11% felt that it was equitable for women.
And, women are a big, consumer of the product. So what is their influence as a consumer to push back so that we see more either women-owned businesses or women-run businesses? What can they do as a female consumer to change this?
Buy weed from women is the first one. And I think that, we have some very interesting consumption data as well that compares women who work in cannabis as industry insiders and those who are current consumers of cannabis, but also those who are curious about cannabis, and their consumption frequency and habits and reasons for use vary a lot. And I think that industry insiders, it will be helpful for them to teach other women how to use cannabis, when to use cannabis, and then to buy cannabis from women and make their voices heard. One of the things that I try to encourage the growers that work with me here in Maine, I have a business here in Maine. I'm trying to encourage them to brand and market their products, not just by strain name, but by the use. Like, why do I need to use this product? And I think that, for example, like, do I want to clean the house right now? Do I want to take a nap? Do I want to meditate? What are the reasons I want to use cannabis, and what are the products I can use?
There's a cleaning house strain.
Oh, totally. There's all kinds of things. And actually, but I think, women who are coming into the cannabis space as consumers, these curious consumers, they think about cannabis much differently than those of us who are already in the industry. They look at it as more of a medical treatment, like for diseases, rather than women who work in cannabis realize that it's for, general emotional health and mental health issues, but also focus and creativity and spirituality and connecting with others. And so I think once everyone realizes all of the things that cannabis can be used for, that opens up more women to the category. I think there are a lot of women who are afraid to come in. They don't want to get high. They don't want to smoke, and they think cannabis isn't for them. And I think men are a little more likely to come into the category. They're less afraid to try cannabis than women. So I think it's teaching people how and when to use it, and then having them support the industry with their purchases. It matters.
And when you say, one of the things they can do is to buy from women, how hard is it to find a women-owned business?
I don't think it's hard at all. I mean, they exist. They talk about themselves as women-owned businesses. You just need to do a little research.
Is there a category in Weed Maps that says women-owned business, or?
Wouldn't that be great? I'm not sure there is, but Weed Maps is one of my sponsors here in Maine. So I'm going to have to ask them about that. That's a great idea.
Because, understanding, that's a great suggestion, but if you can't readily identify people that way, it makes it a little more challenging, right?
Sure. Absolutely. If you're standing in a dispensary and you're looking at the products available, you may not be able to tell by the packaging. It's possible to ask a bud tender who might know the answer, but then it's possible to go home and do your research for the second time you purchase. Look at the brands that are available to you, look at them on Instagram or wherever they are showcasing their products, because they will talk about that. We just have to take the extra step and do the work. It's difficult sometimes to also find Black-owned businesses, but it takes the effort, and it matters, and it's worth it. So we have to take the extra step.
And so when you conducted the study, tell me something that surprised you that you hadn't planned for.
The question on success was a little bit surprising. 86% of the women responded that they do feel successful. And that's surprising, because when you look at all of the sacrifices and obstacles and barriers that they face, it's a lot. And to still feel some level of success, I think, was really powerful. And there were 973 women who provided me with their definition of success. And I got to read through all of those definitions. And it was less about wealth creation. And it was more about personal success, meeting my own goals, helping others around me, taking care of my family, having extra, just being able to take care of my bills. And I think that those definitions, which I will summarize by my very favorite one, and it was everyone around me eats too. And I feel like that's a really powerful way to look at how women define success for themselves. And it makes me think about how, there's a severe lack of funding for women-owned businesses. So I think we're back down to less than 2%. And when you think about the definition of success for those who are providing capital, it's 4 to 10x return. It's all about the money, and that is not what I read.
And are we talking generally, or are we talking cannabis specific?
Generally. And well, it's generally, I think it's probably the same, or if not worse, in cannabis.
Okay.
So it's just a mismatch of definitions, and I think it's really impactful to be able to read through those definitions to see what matters to women.
And, do women look at things like job creation differently than their male counterparts?
That's a great question. My hypothesis is yes, and it's more about supporting the community and making sure that everyone is successful. I'm not sure I should generalize here and say that for men it's about human resources. I'm not sure, but it feels like it's a little bit different to me.
And so you spoke to them on the consumer basis and as consumers. Do they feel comfortable? Do women feel comfortable going into dispensaries on their own?
So there wasn't really a question that I asked in either study, either on women who work in the industry or the current. I should have asked that question. I will say that my experience in talking to women outside of the study is that, yes, it's intimidating to walk in for the first time. I know it was intimidating for me at the beginning, and it took a number of times before I became comfortable. It's almost like you need a buddy system to go in and learn at first.
I got to tell you, it felt that way for me.
Sure.
Right? Because it's just like, this is something that's been illegal for forever. And now, like, I'm walking in and I'm like, I don't really understand it, but I can. But you want to collect my driver's license. I'm not sure how I feel about that. So I actually think that might be universal. That like that first experience in the dispensary is a little strange, regardless of who you are.
For sure.
Yeah. And what other opportunities are there for women at this point? And what are you hoping that the study will accomplish?
There are opportunities everywhere. I would like to see there being more opportunities for women in cultivation and plant touching businesses. The study that we did, we were a bit overrepresented with older women who are a little further along in their careers. We had a significant number of business owners in the study. And I think that is one of the things, that is one of the reasons why women come into the cannabis industry. A lot of them are bringing their skills from wherever they were working before and moving into cannabis, hanging up that shingle and doing it in a new industry. So there are a lot of opportunities for women to come in. Unfortunately, one of the most frequent stories I heard was from women who work, women who were telling me I was doing an amazing job at my, at wherever I was working. And then I was demoted or fired, and they brought in a man with half the experience and paid him twice as much. Like, it was frequent that I heard this, which is infuriating. So while there are a lot of opportunities, I think there are also women who are being pushed out or who just are not succeeding as they could be. And, for my hope for the study is that it can, well, I have a couple of hopes. There's some advocacy research in here, and I hope that those numbers help force the conversation. How can we make this industry better? Because it's not good right now. But also there's really powerful market research data in there that can help businesses tailor their marketing plans, their pitch decks, their brand planning. And I hope that it's useful in that way as well.
So one of the things that we've seen, and we've seen this primarily with people of color, but the opportunities that are presented in these so-called social equity programs. And what we've seen is the reality of opening a dispensary is you need $1 million or more. That is just what it is. So a lot of the money people will partner with these social equity participants, and the challenge becomes, like in many states, such as in California, the social equity participant has to retain a 51% ownership, right? So they have to, maintain control. Of course, the money people can't live with that and don't want that, because that doesn't make any sense. Are women seeing this in the social equity? Are they seeing this where, is it realistic to expect someone to have $1 million?
No, I don't think it is. And
is that a reasonable number, or am I?
I think it's a reasonable number. I think it's a very reasonable number. I think that, there's a couple things here. One, I think there's a lot of other things to do in cannabis rather than opening a dispensary that don't require quite as much funding. But, it's funny, in the business here that I have in Maine, we do networking events for growers. And I hear this conversation all the time. My money guy, this, my money guy, that. I lost my money guy. I'm going to go get another money guy. I'm like, where do you find these money guys? Like, we don't have money guys who are chasing us around to say, here's $1 million, go open a dispensary. Like, that doesn't happen. Yeah. And I was talking to someone about this, like, yeah, my dentist is my money guy. And I got, the grocery guy is my money guy. People are just throwing money at people, but not women, it seems.
But not what? Is that the tagline? Yeah.
And interestingly, I was looking for funding to do this study. Yeah. Couldn't find it. I had to do the work first to prove that I could do it before anybody was interested in handing me some dollars. Despite what I brought to the project. That seems to be how it goes sometimes.
And we've talked about some of the negative things, but so on the surprise side, tell me something good. Tell me something that you hadn't expected that, on a positive note, appeared.
Well, gosh, I would say I would go back to the definitions of success being a positive note. Because there was quite a bit of stuff that was hard to take. Between women having to sacrifice things to come into the industry, or dealing with harassment or whatever it is, and, dealing with the lack of ability to have balance in their life, or to have time for self-care, or to deal with their self-esteem issues. But it's hopeful that women still feel successful despite all of those things. And it's hopeful to me that women come into this industry because cannabis has helped them, and they want to evangelize about cannabis, whether it helped them personally or someone else. They're coming into this industry to have a purpose. And they're not letting, many of them are not letting those obstacles and sacrifices hold them back.
And are you seeing that from the women's perspective, more of them are pursuing sort of the medicinal side than the recreational or adult use side?
I would say, not sure I have data to back it up, but I would say that that hypothesis sounds about right. Yes, but I would also say that there are probably more women doing things like creative services or ancillary businesses like accounting or whatever it is that their specialty was before they came into cannabis. A lot of ancillary businesses with women in cannabis.
Right. So the ecosystem that's supporting the industry.
Yes. Yes.
So now that the study is released, where do you go now? What are the next steps for you?
We have a lot of fun things planned. I'm working with an author, Michelle Newhart. She's going to write a book about the data. She wrote a book called The Medicalization of Marijuana that is an award-winning book. So I'm excited about that. That's going to take a little bit, but that's in the works. My hope is that this study can keep going. We hope to open up the survey again to gather more data. This first one was meant to be a baseline to see where we were. And if we can make this into a longitudinal study where we're looking at it every few years over time, we can measure our progress. Everything tells me that where we are from 2 years ago, things are worse. So it's time to do the study again, but now it's time to get funding so that I can pay help to do this with me. This has been a side project that I've done on the weekends with my own money, and I'm tired. I need some help.
You said that I just totally lost my train of thought. Let me go in a different direction. So tell me about the events that you're working on and what you're doing with those.
I have a business in Maine with my partner called Independent Diamond Brokers, and we do an event called the Maine Growers Marketplace. And Maine is a very different market. There's over 3,000.
Is Maine cold?
It's cold, yeah. But we grow inside.
Just not like when you're thinking of growing places, I don't think Maine comes to the top of my list, but I could be wrong.
Actually, it's also a really great environment to grow hemp here. Honestly. So it is not bad for growing outside. But the industry is much different here. We don't have a lot of out-of-state operators, and there are thousands of caregivers. It's relatively easy to get a delivery license, and a storefront.
So does Maine have medicinal and adult use, or
Yes.
just medicinal? It has both.
A huge medicinal program and a relatively new rec program.
Okay.
So our events are like farmers markets for the medical market. So we have caregivers come and show off their harvest or their products, and we have retail and wholesale buyers to come and stock their stores. So we get new growers every month. We have a different focus, whether it's concentrates or edibles or flower. And I also made an app for this market. So it's a wholesale trade app, kind of like Craigslist, where growers can post ads for wholesale trade in a private, closed system where only licensed caregivers are on the app, and they can work with each other and contact each other directly. So we've been trying to help.
Can you share the name of the app?
It's called the Private Buyers Club.
Okay.
Yep. And so we have.
Usually when we promote things, we tell people what it's called.
Well, it's absolutely, it's the Private Buyers Club, but it's a closed club. And so people have to apply and send me their information, and then I add them in because we need to make sure that everybody's licensed.
Where can they find out about this if they are interested for you to review them?
Yep, it's independentdiamondbrokers.com or maingrowersmarketplace.com.
Okay, great. And so what else is on your, because you don't have enough to do, what else is on your calendar for the rest of the year?
I don't have enough to do at all. I actually bought property here in Maine, and I really want to go spend some more time out there building trails, and I'm going to have to build a house soon. So that's what I really would love to be doing. But I'll also be doing quite a bit still with the study in terms of putting out new data reports as we have new insights. And I'll be doing strategic guidance and consulting for those who want to do a deeper dive into the data or who want to tap into the knowledge I've gained over the past couple of years to help with business planning and marketing plans and brand planning. And
this all can be found on the study website?
Yep, WomenInCannabis.Study. We're actually working on some of the new pages for the services that we will be offering. It's we're a little slow to get going. Again, it's, this is what we're doing in our spare time right now. So
well, we will make sure that those links are available in the text below. We very much appreciate your time, and we appreciate your hard work. Keep fighting the good fight. Sounds like you still have a lot to go, right? There's more to be done.
This is just the start, yes. And anybody who takes a look at the study, I would encourage to screenshot and share. If you find a data point or a story that's interesting, post it on social media and talk about it. I would like to force the conversations that people are finding difficult to have.
And if we were looking for you on social media, where do we look?
Mostly LinkedIn. Or I think we've got some Instagram stuff going for WomenInCannabis.Study. Yeah, we're mostly focused on LinkedIn at the moment.
Okay. Well, great. We will make sure that those are available for folks to check it out. Jennifer, we appreciate your time today. Keep up the good work. We're going to check back in 6 months or a year, and you'll tell us all the great things that are happening and how there's been a shift in the good direction. Right.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.